All right, guys, can you hear me? Everyone,
Mm-hmm.
everyone here. We have Steven,
Yep.
Yep.
Mr. Steven Dykeman, and we
Yep.
have Gavin Bennet. Guys, how are we doing today?
You're good.
I'm exhausted. I've been traveling for like 2 days straight. I guess I've been really traveling for like 2 weeks straight, but I'm finally back home in my home country, so that's nice.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Looks like we have a follow. I don't know if it's like up to date follow or if it was a follow while we were off the air, but Roar Bear Pig. That's a nice name. I
Oh,
like
Oh,
it.
very
that's
cool.
I know who that is. That's my friend. That's
Oh,
my friend Roy. Yeah, I know
Oh,
him.
awesome.
that's awesome, dude. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Well, welcome Roy to the family. For those that haven't catch our previous ones, we're actually gonna be doing a follower and subscriber only free giveaway soon. So that's always fun. It's a great
Sweet.
time to be a
Sick.
part of that. But yeah, Gavin, you did some traveling. You both played in the INVI this weekend.
We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody got to see it because it wasn't on Twitch, unfortunately. But
Fortunately, though, there were some pictures. There were some pictures on
mhm.
on Twitter.
Yeah, you were in a couple of them. I think I was in one of them, but
Yep.
it was me losing. So, man,
Well,
I wish
the
that
good
one
news
didn't
is
get
the good news
posted.
is only you know you were losing. The rest of the world probably couldn't tell from one picture
I don't know.
what
They
was
know
happening in
now.
the game.
Well, I was extending my hand to Brad Nelson,
Oh,
and I looked defeated. So,
that's fair. All right. Well. All right. Fine. Maybe people
Did it
didn't
again?
realize.
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and break down some of the stuff from the weekend. So let's just start the trip there. You said you took the train.
Yeah, so I took the train from Chicago up to Washington, D.C., and then from Washington, D.C., I took another train to Roanoke. So,
Did you have a layover in DC at all?
I did. I think it was like I think it was a few hours actually. Yeah, I think it was 3 or 4 hours. So, but the station was actually pretty nice. There was places where I could plug in my computer and pretty decent food. So, yeah, it wasn't too bad.
That's awesome. I'm glad you didn't have to rush around and potentially be late. I hate those layovers when you're actually rushing. Those things
Hmm.
suck.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely like to give myself extra time, especially when it comes to traveling for events. So having
Hmm.
that time was good for sure.
Yeah, no, long trip. You just came off a very successful top eight in the Legacy event over at the Nerd Rage Gaming Series, and then you had a
Yeah,
couple
that was
time to
great.
you got a couple of days to reflect and realize, hey, this deck I'm going to play in the NV, I'm not feeling it. So you did the typical Magic thing, and that's sending out calls for cards.
Yeah, I luckily like the person who was going to be loaning me cards for the invitational was also at NRG, and so I pretty much said, yeah, can you get the cards for the four color Yorion Blink deck because that deck seems way better than Jun Saga. And at first he said no, but then he's like, well, I think I have like 70% of it, so let me like look and I'll get back to you. So then I started messaging people in your guys' Discord, like, hey, I'm trying to play this deck. Does
Hmm.
anybody have it? And then luckily I was able to get all the cards for it. So
Yep.
Yeah.
I always love it when Magic players come together, just because we all have one common goal, and that's to be able to play this game that we all enjoy.
for
Hmm.
sure.
So you went with four color Blink, and on the standard side, what did you play?
I played my same Blue White Epiphany deck that I've been
Hmm.
playing for about a month and a bit now. I felt like I knew that I didn't want to switch off of standard just because I felt like with modern, not knowing my deck very well, I really wanted to play something in standard that I knew.
Yep.
So that way, if modern didn't go as well, at least standard, I might be able to cover my bases on that.
Yep.
Turns out that I guess I knew modern better than standard because I had a better record in modern than standard.
Yeah.
But I think that might also just be because of the deck I was playing was so good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, most definitely that modern deck was intense. I didn't get to catch a bunch of your matches because I was busy I was on team side events over the weekend that I was like telling people I was going to be doing for many weeks, and I will
Yep.
say my fun level was 10 out of 10. Outside of that horrible PTQ experience I found out the hard way, that's a story in its own. Like we don't have to get into that, but at least right now.
mhm.
So you played that. Let's switch over, Steven. What did you play?
I played Blue Black Liar in Standard, and it was a slightly different build than what I had been streaming. Robert Stanley messaged me the Friday before, so about a week before the INVI, 6 days before the INVI, messaged me Friday night and sent me a list, and I thought it looked really good, and he was telling me a lot of the grinders were telling him the list looked like shit. And I basically was like, no, man, it looks pretty good to me. Like, and then he was like, yeah, I think this deck's broken. Like, me and Kellen keep crushing everybody with this deck. And so he sent me this list, and I told him that I wouldn't stream the exact 75 because he was adamant that first of all, it wasn't even all his. It was a mix of his and some other people's, so he didn't want it to get out. So I said I wouldn't stream it, but essentially it was just Blue Black Liar with Sedgemoor Witch in it was kind of the big innovation for the weekend. That was kind of the only way that deck could really pressure the blue-red deck was get a witch into play and then protect it with things like Fading Hope, or if you just get a couple of pests, that's enough to just kind of get a clock on the blue-red deck, which is kind of what you need in that matchup. So that's what I played in Standard. Now, they obviously, if anyone was following the Invitational, you know that Kellen ended up on a Grixis list, and that's what Robert Stanley and Zach Allen ended up on as well. And that list did very well as well. But me and Collins Mullen, and there were a few other people who were playing Blue Black Liar, but I think me and Collins Mullen were the only Robert Stanley Blue Black Liar players, like the people with the witches in the main deck, as far as I saw. Anyway, there may have been others, but Collins is obviously, I played against Collins. So we kind of played a mirror. But that's what I did in Standard. And then in Modern, I just went with Old Faithful, which has been elementals for me the past few months.
Yep, definitely both good choices. I know you put a lot of time into the Standard format with your consistent streaming Monday through Friday, 11 to 4, for those that don't know.
Yep.
Little self-plug really quick.
Yep.
No, both decks are good. We're going to break down, and then we're going to talk about how the placings went and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with Gavin for day one. Let's talk about your day one. So you kicked it off before the tournament. Where is your confidence level? Was it higher for the Standard portion or higher for Modern?
Oh, it was definitely higher for Standard. Modern, I was not really confident at all. Because, like I said, I hadn't really played my deck, but from what I had talked to people who had been having success with it, that it was supposed to be good against blue-white and be good against hammer, and then everything else, your cards are usually just better than your opponents. So as long as you draw reasonably well, you can win any matchup. So I was like, okay, well, that sounds good enough to me.
Yep.
And then for Standard, I figured there was just going to be blue, red, and green and white. And I figured the green and the white decks my deck was pretty good against. And if I played against blue, red, I'd probably win game one and then just try and win one of the sideboard games. So I figured if I did well in Standard, if I did well in Modern, then I would be in a good spot for the event, because I felt like I was pretty well positioned for Standard. So
no, that's a pretty good approach on it. So we're not going to break down every single round, obviously, because that's, 16 rounds, and that'd be pretty hefty to get through both of your tournament reports like that. But let's just talk about the we're going to talk about the overall records for each format and some of the notable moments from it. So, Gavin, we're going to start with you we kicked off with Standard. What was your overall record after 4 rounds?
I was 1-3. Standard, the first 4 rounds was not kind to me at all. I had lost round 1 to mono green. The only round I won was round 2 against a mono white deck. But the mono white deck I played against was interesting. They were not playing Snowlands, and they didn't have Faithless Haven. And their thinking was that for the mirror match, they didn't want to have if they played against the mirror, they didn't want to have to deal with having playing against Redain and then having all their stuff come into play tap. So they decided to play no Snowlands. But after the match, we had talked a bit more, and they said they would probably just play the Snowlands just because they're just so good. But I lost to mono green twice, and then I lost to Kane Reinhardt in round 3 on blue red. Our match was pretty, or he was blue red splashing black for like duresses and go blanks. We had a pretty interesting match. The last round of standard was kind of brutal, though. I know I had told you guys about it after it happened, but I had ultimated a Teferi to Slows the Sun, which for those people who don't know that card, when you ultimate it, you get to draw a card and then tap all your permanents on your opponent's turn. So every turn cycle, you get 2 cards and 2 untap steps. And my opponent I was at 19 life, and my opponent was Hellbent. And I also had a Strixhaven Stadium in play too, so I was continuously like tapping and tapping that, getting counters. But I ended up dying like 9 or 10 turns later with like 19 lands in play and like no creatures. I didn't draw an Epiphany, Memory Deluge, or Behold the Multiverse, and they ended up just like playing some creatures, and I would kill them, and then they played a Rangers class and leveled it up, and then it was just game over after that. So that was my round 4 loss. So that was after that I was not in the greatest mindset after
definitely disheartened.
After ultimating a Fairy and lose.
Dude, there's some games you lose in Magic that you literally never forget. I'll never forget my when I was playing for my 3rd PT, my loss in top 8 of that RPTQ was one of the most disgusting losses I think I've ever had in my life. My game, I can't remember if it was game 2 or game 3, but one of the games I just get completely screwed on mana, and I was playing 27 lands in my deck at this time, which is like way above what most people played. I think I was up 2 lands from what most people played in blue-black mid-range, because my logic was, since the blue-black cycle land could draw cards, I could play more lands because I was able to just cycle them late. So I was a little more land heavy, so I wouldn't lose games like that. And then, so I lose a game to just never drawing a 3rd land, and I have like multiple Champion of Wits and things in my hand. And then the other game, I lose to like a single copy of Rekindling Phoenix, and I had like 7 answers in my deck to this stupid thing, and those are just 1-for-1s. I also could have like killed it and then killed it again type of thing. Yeah. And my opponent like made a bunch of mistakes, like didn't play particularly well. And I like eternalized a Champion of Wits and just still like never found a 1-for-1 for this single Rekindling Phoenix or a way to kill both, which was just, that loss will always stick with me for sure. And I'd imagine you're ultimating a Teferi and then somehow still losing the game despite drawing 2 cards a turn and untapping all your lands every turn will probably stick with you too.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, but I didn't really have too much time to think about it that much because like we had to go straight into Modern. So
yep.
Yeah, you definitely have to just shake it off and move on to the next one, because if you just like still start dwelling on those kind of things, it's gonna probably not lead to best results for you.
Right.
Yeah,
but
for
man,
sure.
those are so brutal. Before we move on to Modern, just to answer, was that BJZ Zarning? I did not play in the big tournament. I had no interest in playing Magic Arena to qualify after I've already like gotten many 6-0s and stuff in SCG events just for them to say they didn't matter. I had no interest in continuing that grind. So I decided I'm going to play nothing but side events, and I did indeed crush a lot of people with Mono White Magecraft.
Nice.
That is something I actually want to work on a build in Historic and Pioneer. I think Magecraft in those formats would be sweet.
Yep.
But that's a stream for another day.
Yep.
But before we jump into Modern, Gavin, Standard, we'll stay on that topic. Steven, tell us how you did.
I 4-0'd Standard in day 1.
So you 4-0'd. You just clean sweep. Was there any interesting matchups in that first day? I know every one of your rounds.
You know probably right where I'm going. So
go ahead.
I guess round 1 I played a mirror match. I had Witch. My opponent didn't have Witch, and that was everything in game 2. I beat my opponent game 1 because I drew a little better than they did. That was pretty much end of story. I drew 3 draw spells. They drew 0, and they got buried by Deluge. I hit land drops. They didn't. And that was pretty much game 1. Game 2, I had Witch. They didn't have Witch, and they got buried by Pests. My second round, I play against Brad Nelson. And I think to this point, I was probably about 1-4 against Brad Nelson lifetime. I've played against him in, I think, 2 team events. I didn't play against him specifically. I always get paired against Seth Manfield for whatever reason when we're playing the team events. I've lost to Manfield once, and then I had a did not finish against Seth Manfield in another one. But I think I'm about 1-4 against Brad lifetime. The only time I've ever beaten Brad to this point was at Pro Tour Born of the Gods, I believe, which was a block constructed Pro Tour, and I beat him with a horrendously bad mono black deck, but my deck was fairly well positioned against the Naya mid-range deck, which is what he played, and he didn't have a lot of answers to this horrible card called Master of the Feast. For those of you that don't know what Master of the Feast does, it's a 3-mana 5/5 flyer that I believe at the beginning of each of your opponents, I can't remember when the trigger is, but it basically lets your opponent draw 2 cards a turn. I can't remember exactly when it was, but
I believe it's the opponent's upkeep, they get to draw an extra card.
I thought so. I think that's what it is too. But the card's terrible. The card is super bad. I would never recommend playing this card to anybody. I've come a long way in Magic since registering 4 Master of the Feasts at a Pro Tour. But I did beat Brad Nelson. And when I beat Brad, I think my record went to 2-2, and he went to 1-3. And then he never lost again at this Pro Tour and top 16'd it and made thousands of dollars, as Brad Nelson does at many tournaments. And I did not top 8 and scrubbed out at 3-5. All right, so fast forward to this weekend. I'm playing against Brad Nelson. Game 1, he demolishes me. I duress a unexpected windfall on turn 1 or 2. I can't remember what turn it was. I think it might have even been turn 1, but his hand was pretty well set. He had Egg. He had a Galvanic Iteration. He only had 2 lands, so I was kind of hoping he would miss land drops, but naturally he hit an iteration on turn 3, an expressive iteration, and that set up his land drops and kind of got him going. And then he eventually copies the unexpected windfall with that Galvanic Iteration. He draws a second copy and just completely buries me in cards and treasures and sets up for a multiple Epiphany turn later, which I cannot beat. So I get destroyed in Game 1. It isn't even close. Game 2, the only good thing, I did make a good decision in Game 1, though. I chose to never cast my Witch because I knew I had lost the game, so I just chose to hold it because I didn't want him to know I was playing Witch if he wasn't aware of the tech for the weekend yet, which I don't think most people who were not in communication with Robert Stanley knew that people were going to do. So Game 2, I keep a hand with Witch in it. I slam it on turn 3, and he kind of I can't remember if he looked at the card, like read the card, but he was like interesting when I played the card. Like he was definitely surprised it was there, and he didn't have an answer to it, and he ends up getting buried by it and loses to it. Just a single Witch. And then Game 3 was fairly interesting. Well, it was very interesting, but my keep was 5 lands, Duress, and Witch again. And 5 lands I typically wouldn't keep in a lot of spots, but the fact that it had Witch again and it had Duress made me just kind of shrug my shoulders and hope I would draw well, because I thought the Witch would be. I mean, the whole point against Blue-Red is to play a Witch, and I also had Duress, so I was like, yeah, screw it, I'm going to keep this, and I hope we draw pretty well. I drew okay in this game, but I did not draw well enough to win, barring Brad making some really big mistakes. Well, really just one big mistake, honestly. He played the whole game well except for one mistake. But basically what ends up happening is I get 2 Witches in play. I duress him with 2 Witches in play. I obviously duressed him on turn 1 as well, so I end up drawing okay in this game, but I do end up hitting 8 lands or 9 lands by the end of it, so... But, that's what I get for keeping a 5-lander. It's a gamble for sure. But we basically get in a spot where he's able to flip an Egg, and he's able to stabilize at like 3 life. He kills off all my pests with Ashmouth triggers. And then basically I put him in a position where he had to cast an Epiphany and pray that I didn't have a Divide by Zero or a Test of Talents, and I had neither. So he resolved the Epiphany, and it looks like he's going to win the game for sure. And he thinks he's going to win the game. And literally anyone watching it thinks he's going to win the game. I feel like he's going to win. He obviously felt like he was going to win too. And he's in a great position. And basically what ends up happening is he clears my board entirely. with exception of I have a Hall of the Storm Giants in my land pile and more than enough lands to activate it. I think like I said, I end up drawing 9 lands by the end of this game. So on his final turn that he takes, he attacks me with 2 birds and an Ashmouth, plays an expressive iteration with 6 mana open. I can't remember. I think he exiled. I can't even remember what he exiled. I guess it's not really relevant because it didn't end up mattering. But he passes the turn with 6 mana open and no creatures to block, and he's at 5 life. And I fire up the Hall because it's the only option I have, obviously, and I just swing, and I'm like, well, he probably has a Fading Hope or something. Brad wouldn't just kill himself into this, but whatever. I have to go for this. It's all I have. And he throws his cards on the table, extends his hand, and just goes, "God damn it, Brad!" And I'm just like, "What the hell?" Like literally, I am shocked. I cannot believe what just happened. He's obviously very frustrated, and he looks over at one of his buddies who was there watching, and he just goes, "Why am I playing like this? I want to go home. I want to go home." And I'm just shocked. I mean, Brad Nelson is definitely a player that I've always kind of looked up to because I always really liked Standard, and he was kind of known as like the Standard master. I mean, he top 8'd like 3 or 4 Grand Prix in a row in Standard. I mean, the dude is he's got a really good mind for deck building, and he's just a really solid player.
Right,
But
to interject with that, it's so funny enough, if you ever listen to Brad Nelson talk, he will tell you he's not really a good deck builder per se, but it comes when it's brewing and tuning decks, not brewing, but tuning decks. That's where he thinks he's really good, and especially in Standard. He is very known for Standard tuning. I'm not saying he's never designed a deck by any means, but I've heard him say on multiple occasions he doesn't really consider himself like a deck builder, but more of a deck tuner.
Fair enough. Okay. Either way, he was always and is still very good at Standard. Very good player. Yeah. One of the best for sure.
One of the best of all time, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. And to have him make a wild punt like that was just crazy. I couldn't believe it. And then people came up to me afterwards. They're like, "What in the hell just happened, dude? We thought you were dead." And I'm just like, "I did
me
too."
too.
Like, me too, man. I thought I was 1-1 for sure, but here we are at 2-0. So I escaped that round.
Funny enough, the reason that you told that story, especially beforehand, about the last time he lost to you, he won out and made $1,000 is because, funny enough, after he loses to you, it's like
he top 8s.
Yeah,
he top 8. Yeah, for those that paid attention, he lost to me, and then that just pissed him off, and he got his shit together. He's like, "I'm not losing to some scrub out here."
I'm losing to a man that can't afford a haircut.
Yeah, wow. Exactly. But so anyway, I squeaked by that round, and then my next 2 rounds, I believe I beat Mono Green in round 3, and then I beat Mono White in round 4, and I beat Mono White pretty handily. Well, I lose game 1, but games 2 and 3 I win pretty handily. I knew that my opponent had the phase out creature in game 2, so I just never played a sweeper. And even there was one turn where I tapped 4 mana and acted like I had a sweeper, but then changed my mind. But I obviously I didn't have a sweeper, but I was just trying to bluff it. And then I passed turn or whatever, and ended up using 1-for-1 removal and things like that. But I ended up taking game 2, and then game 3 I was pretty fortunate. I drew all 3 copies of Blood Chief's Thirst within the first 4 turns of the game. So he goes 1 drop and a 2 drop, and I just on turn 2 go thirst, killed them both, and was able to pretty easily handle that game. But I drew really well. I mean, you need to go 4-0 in an invitational in a format. You need to draw pretty well, and you need to get some lucky breaks, which I definitely got when Brad just threw game 3 to me. So, I ended Standard at 4-0 on day 1.
All right, so you're 4-0. Gavin, unfortunately, is on not as good of a
Gavin
path.
Is almost the literal opposite end of the spectrum.
Yep.
Getting ready. From what I know, I think you have to go 5-3 to make day 2. And I haven't played a game with my deck, so I'm just like, "Hey, where's the nearest pub?" Because
Yep.
You were like, "This is where we're going." You're like, "Should I just sign up for the PTQ now? Maybe I should just get ready." But fast forward, you don't do that. You decide, "Hey, I'm going to play me some Modern. So let's talk
Right.
about really quick about your Modern results. What was your overall record for Modern?
I went 4-0 in modern.
There we
So
go. And from my understanding, how many games did you actually lose?
only one. The very first round of round 5
Yep.
was the only game that I lost.
So you're over here. You just went complete, not like big old U-turn. You were like, "Hey, There's rumors going around at this time. Not rumors, but people doing the calculations that 4-4 is going to get into day two." You said,
Mm-hmm.
"Not me though. I ain't about that life. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
go in with the traditional X3 they make today too. I wanted the full invitational experience." So, was there any big highlights when you're 2-0ing everyone? There's not much to really say. Let's talk about your one loss. Who was able to steal that game from you?
So round 5, I played against Dylan Gillis. I think he's from the East Coast as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Top eight.
Dice City Games guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
top 8 at GP.
Very
But he
good
was
player.
on. Yeah, he was on Orza. He was on the Hammer Time deck,
Okay.
and game 1, like I kept a hand that like didn't really have any like solitudes or anything, but it had Teferi, and I think it had like an Omnath,
Sure.
and I think that was it, and maybe one other creature. I think it had like a Fury or something. Yeah, it was like I think it was Teferi, Omnath, Fury, and land. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just keep it.
Yeah.
And so I end up he plays like an Urza. He plays a hammer on 1. Doesn't do anything on turn 2. I think he plays an Urza Saga on turn 2, and then turn 3 he just plays a land and passes, and I haven't drawn anything. So I just play my Teferi because like there's nothing else I can really do,
Right.
and just hope that I don't die. I bounce the hammer, and I'm like, okay, well hopefully I just don't die. And so he goes end of turn, make a construct, and then on his turn, Saga goes off, like make a. I don't think he makes another construct. I think he just floats a mana, gets a hammer, and then plays the other hammer that was in his hand and that I knew about, and then played Pure Steel Paladin, and then moved both the hammers, and then 22'd me or whatever it was. So I just died. So I was like, okay, well, great. Like I'm one game from being like out of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And this matchup was supposed to be good for me.
Yep.
But then games 2 and 3, I just like actually now that I know what he's playing, keep hands with interaction, and I just the matches aren't close. I like play a Fury. He has 1 point. He has a Giver of Ruins and double Knight of Malice, and I play a Fury, and he tries to save one of them, and I ephemerate it and just wrath his board, and then it's game over after that, and then. Game 2, same thing kind of happens, and I Fury him again, and then he plays another creature, and I Solitude it, and it's just, yeah. So when I draw interaction, it's just like that matchup is pretty free. So I won game 2 and 3.
Was the hammer matchup round 5?
Yeah, round 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. So losing game 1 has to be like the worst feeling after the way standard one was going for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
You were feeling like this was your exit ticket.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, let's just get this over with. Like, I'm over it. Like, I'm just gonna get turn 3 again, and then that'll be that. But
then you started to hulk up.
Yeah,
Gavin Mania was running wild.
Yeah, so and then the rest of the matches were just like 2-0 sweeps. Beat blue-white control twice. One of them was Zach Allen in round 8, so that was pretty sweet. And then like I beat a black-green Yawgmoth deck, which I thought would give me some trouble, but I mean, again, between Solitude and Fury and Endurance, it's really hard for them to set up their combo, let alone to keep creatures in play. So I kind of
that sounds horrendous.
Yeah, so I kind of just 2-0'd everybody and was feeling good after starting off 1-3, rattling off 4 in a row in a format that I didn't really practice with and hadn't played my deck until really round 5 of the tournament. Felt pretty good. So,
all right, I'm gonna want to get into day 2 pretty quickly, but I want to still be able to touch on Steven's final day 1 reps, and this was modern with elementals. Steven, let me see. Was this so? You're playing elementals. What was your first round against in modern?
Living End.
That was the Living End day. I couldn't remember if that was day 1 or 2. Yep.
Nope. Day 1.
Yep. Day 1.
This guy. So I beat him game 1. Just to give everybody a quick recap, beat him game 1. I win because I I turn 2 Arisen Reef and then put a Fury into my graveyard, trigger the Reef, and then the Fury comes back and kills something and then blocks a Stripe Riverwinder to trade with it. And basically I get an Omnath in play after this, and then my opponent sets up another Living End, but that gives me a Reef back and something else back, I think, too. And then I kind of just bury him in cards with Risen Reef. That's pretty much the story of Game 1. Games 2 and 3, my opponent runs about as hot with Living End as you possibly can. He griefs me on turn 1 both games. And I think, actually, that's a lie. Game 2, he griefs me on turn 2, which in some ways is arguably even better than a grief on turn 1 because you get more information that way. But griefs me on turn 2 in game 2, takes, I believe, a Force of Negation, and then Living Ends me on turn 3 with a Shardless Agent, hits like 3 or 4 creatures and kills me. I draw like nothing after I get griefed. I just draw a bunch of lands. And that's pretty much the same story of game 3. I keep an opener with Rest in Peace in it on the play a tap land, say go, and then my opponent griefs me again, and then I draw lands and get Living Ended on turn 3 again, and just end up dying. So, and this dude ended up being like 7-1 or 8-0 after day 1. So that's kind of just how day 1 went for him. Just a lot of hot Living End draws and hot whatever he was playing in standard draws. But I mean, it is what it is. I got super lucky in spots in standard, so it was hard to complain about it. So I lose round 1 of Modern there. Next round I play against Hammer Time, which is honestly like Elemental. Like that's Elemental's like best matchup. It's exactly what you want to play against with Elementals. It was part of the reason I chose Elementals for the event. I saw a lot of people were picking up Hammer Time, and that was good for me. That was something I really wanted. So I play against a guy on Hammer Time, and game 1 he gets me. He has like a really solid draw. I may have mistimed my Solitude Ephemerate. Maybe I should have done it at a different time. But either way, he like uses all 10 of his cards to kill me on turn 4 or 5. Can't remember what turn it was, but he used like every card to kill me. Game 2, I'm able to get him, but it's a close battle. And then game 3, again, I get him Hellbent, I Solitude, Aluris, and then my opponent top decks a Pure Steel Paladin to equip the hammers that were like in play doing nothing, and ends up killing me because he had a Giver of Runes as well. He had like an Ornithopter or something, and then threw double hammer on it, and then gave it pro whatever creature I had in play, and killed me. So I'm 0-2 in Modern at this point, feeling a little down. Not a good spot to lose to Hammer Time with Elementals. That is not where I wanted to be at all. But fortunately, the next round I play against the 80-card Rhinos deck, and I draw like triple Teferi in game 1. He keeps dealing with them, and I keep playing more, and I was able to outlast him. I get the Risen Reef and Mole Drifter and Ephemerated Mole Drifter and things like that. We go a pretty long game, but once I Ephemerated the Mole Drifter, things got out of control, as they often do when you Ephemerate a Mole Drifter. And then game 2 was I top decked some pretty timely engineered explosives and just blew away Rhinos when I needed to, and was able to get him. So I win that match 2-0. I'm at 5-2 at this point, 1-2 in Modern. And then my last round of day 1, trying to remember what that was. I actually can't remember what my last round was right now. I remembered it like 20 minutes ago when I was thinking about it, but now after reflecting on all this other stuff, I forget. Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
But I wish I had the Jeopardy music when you were thinking.
Yeah, I know.
Steven, you don't have to use the clock here, too.
Yeah.
Leave that on the battlefield.
Yeah, can't quite remember what it is.
All right, well, if it comes back up, I'll let you talk about it briefly, but just know you won, correct?
I did. So I
finished record
6-2.
6-2. So Steven was 6-2. Gavin's over here at 5-3. Both of them are ahead of the 4-4 cutoff that they had because of the number of participants. They're on the day 2, and this is where the real games shine. And
I felt like I was 8-0 going into day 2, even though it was only 5-3. Just going 4-0 in Modern, I felt like I was like, okay, if my standard deck doesn't, fail me, I think I have a good
Again.
shot at the top 8. I was feeling good.
Yeah, because especially that gives you some good momentum because you're on a
It
big hot
does.
streak because you're playing well. The deck is performing well. It's all in the front of the car at this point. You just got to drive it forward. So we're on to
Yeah.
day 2. So day 2 comes, and we're back to standard. I'm going to go ahead and let Steven kick this one off briefly. Tell us how the standard went. Some little quick 30-second recaps of each round.
Cool. Round 1, I play against Collins Mullen, and we play a mirror match. It's a very, very close one. Game one goes about 15, 20 minutes. He concedes pretty quickly when he starts to fall behind to save us time,
Smart.
which makes sense considering the matchup. So I win game 1, and then game 2, we actually never get to a conclusion because he has triple Sedgemoor Witch in play, and I have double Sedgemoor Witch in play. And he didn't draw spells for a while, and I drew a fair amount of spells, so I have like 15 insects to his. He eventually draws spells and got like 9 insects, but no one could really break through, and there just wasn't a great opportunity to attack. He drew all of his liars in that game. I had to slog through those. He eventually drew a removal spell for my first liar, but then I drew another one. It was a wild game. Who knows who would have won? I think I was slightly favored, but not by much. But we never finished game 2, and he just concedes. So that's how that first one goes. Next round, I lose to mono green. And actually, did I lose? No, I lose to blue-red. Sorry, I lose to blue-red. Next round, I lose to blue-red. A good player, although I'm blanking on his name right now, but a solid player. I recognized him. He's definitely an SCG grinder, strong player. But anyway, I lose to him. Blue-red's a tough matchup when things go right for them, and they don't miss a beat. It's pretty hard for blue-black to keep up, especially if they have a removal spell for Sedgemoor Witch. So I lose that match, and then next match I lose to mono green. So at that point, I'm 1-2 in standard and 7-4 overall. So just like last invitational, my back is against the wall, but it's against the wall one round earlier than last time. I went from 8-0 to 8-4 at the last invitational, and at this invitational I was 7-4. So to top 8, I was going to have to win 5 in a row. And fortunately, in the next round, my blue-red opponent mulls to 6 and misses third land drop and second color for like 3 turns. So game 1 was easy to win because my opponent's draw was terrible, which was helpful. And then in game 2, he made a massive error, and he said so after the game himself, talked about what a bad mistake it was. But he went to kill my Sedgemoor Witch on his end step at 6 life. So he put himself to 3. And at that point, I tanked for a minute, and I Soul Shattered to kill nothing to get a 1/1 pest. And then I Bloodline Cullinged my own Sedgemoor Witch to get another pest to represent lethal plus a pest. I had 4 damage in play with 2 pests and a Malevolent Hermit flipped, whatever the name of the flipped Malevolent Hermit is, I forget. But I set up those pests and a 2/2 with him at 3 life, and my opponent is able to Spike Field Hazard one of the 1/1s and then dies exactly to the second 1/1 and the 2/2. But if he just would have waited to fight until my turn, those tokens wouldn't have been able to attack, and he might have been able to claw his way out of it with extra turn spells and things, but that was not the case. So I ended standard at 8-4.
All right, so he's 8-4. Standard's over. We're going to be getting ready to go to modern on Steven's side. And now over to Gavin. Day 1 of standard did not go your way. You went 1-3. So what did you do in day 2 for your standard portion?
So day 2, I went 3-1. One round 9 against mono green. It was pretty uneventful. My deck's really good against mono green, so it was just 2-0 sweep. My opponent was playing triple Snakeskin Veil main, which he told me about after the match, so that was kind of interesting. Never really came up for a situation where you could use them, but I just 2-0'd him, and so that was fine. Lost round 10 to mono white. Pretty unfortunate loss. Kind of the same way that I lost to mono green in round 4 of the day 1, where I stabilized. basically had them on nothing, and then just died to a 1/1 dog while I just floundered around and not drew a Behold the Multiverse or a Epiphany or Memory Deluge or a Manland to be able to just block the creature. So lost game 1 of that one, and then game 2 had a better hand where I had a Doomscar, was able to Wrath, but took some early damage, and then they had to follow up a couple of creatures, and then I didn't have another Wrath, and then ended up dying. But then the next 2 rounds were against Mono Green and Mono White, and I 2-0'd both of those pretty easily. I drew card draw and Wrath, so when I draw like that against the aggro decks, it's pretty easy to win. So I ended at day 2, or I ended at round 12 at 8-4 as well.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and let Gavin kick off the modern portion because I don't remember what your record was, but I do not believe your modern went as good as day 1. It's like the 2 formats flipped on each other in a way.
Yeah, they did, which was unfortunate.
Because you had to be feeling good after that. You went 3-1 in the format that you struggled with on day 1.
Yeah, I was feeling great. I was like, and people were telling me like, oh, you're like actually live for top 8. Like X4 is going to top 8 this tournament. So, and I just 4-0'd Modern the day before. So I'm like, okay, well, like let's see what happens if
Let's
I can
get
win.
the work.
Yeah, like if I can win 3 matches, maybe I can potentially draw, but most likely not. But if I just win, if I 4-0 Modern again, then I make top 8 after starting 1-3. So I was feeling pretty pumped, and then I go to look at the pairings board, and I'm against Brad Nelson in round 13. So so that was a really interesting match. He was on Gen Saga, and I was playing the 4-color Blink deck. And game 1 is like kind of destroying me, but then I start to draw like pretty well. I drew an Omnath later on in the game, and was able to set up like an Omnath plus Time Warp turn, and then like set up like get an expressive iteration off of that, and then like play a Fury, and like I slowly just started like drawing a bunch of cards, and I was playing elementals, and stuff was dying, and things were getting blinked out with ephemerates and Yorions, and then next thing you know, Brad's scooping up his cards. So I was feeling pretty good about that game. And then game 2, I end up dying to a couple Tarmogoyfs. Game 2, he took my Past Exile and then played a couple Goyfs, and I couldn't answer them. And then game 3 was like a really long back and forth game. He mulls to 6. I'm able to Prismatic Ending a Dragon Rage Channeler on turn 1. He ends up playing a Tarmogoyf, so I take some hits from that. And then the key turn was that he was able to get down a Torpor Orb before I could play my Eternal Witness to get back the Prismatic Ending in my graveyard. And Torpor Orb, obviously very good against the Elemental deck, shuts down all the creatures. So was trying to desperately find another Prismatic Ending or like a Teferi to bounce it. Or just like play an Omnath and like still be able to like gain life and get mana off that. But wasn't able to, and ended up dying. The game lasted for about 8 or 9 turns, but it was like kind of over once the Torpor Orb came down. I think maybe if I put Yorion into my hand and played it like 1 turn earlier, I might have been able to race Brad, but I'm not exactly sure.
Sure.
So I ended up losing that one, going to 8-5 now.
Yeah.
8-5. So I'm like dead for top 8. But like I guess I'm like, well, if I win a couple more rounds, I could probably draw top 32, and that's still $1,000. So that's like
a lot of money.
A lot of money. Play against Blue White next round, lose. Play against Blue White the round after that, lose again. And so now I'm 8-7. And I'm like going like I don't even know if I'm gonna cash. I play against Blue White again in the last round. Game 1 I lose. Game 2 I win. Game 3 there's like. So we go to turns, and there's like no clear winner. I'm at like 30-something life. My opponent's at like 17.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're in that awkward scenario where like we're the last match. All the judges are around. They're like pressuring us to like turn the match flip. Yeah. We don't want it to draw because if we draw, neither of us get prizes.
You both lose out.
We both lose out, and like we're both trying to like we don't want to say anything that gets us disqualified, but it's very obvious like what we're trying to do. So like eventually, after some like talking and the judges getting ready to just take the slip, my opponent concedes to me. So I'm 9-7, and I'm like hoping that I end up making money. But I guess we'll get to that part of that story after you talk about
Yeah.
your modern games.
So
So
Yeah.
so yeah, what was your record one more time?
9-7.
All right. So you're 9-7. Winning record still. Keep that in
Yeah.
mind. Very grueling tournament, so leaving with winning records is always a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Steven, let's touch base on how your 4 rounds went.
All right. So my first round of modern of day 2 was pretty wild. So I sit down with this guy, and he seems fairly cordial and reasonable and all this, as I guess most people do when you first communicate with them. But we play for about 4 or 5 turns. He's playing an affinity deck, and obviously I'm playing elementals. A very good matchup for me still. Probably even better than Hammer Time,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, because they don't have the explosive nonsense draw. And it becomes very clear around turn 5 or 6 that I'm almost certainly going to win game 1. My opponent's at like 50 life from getting a bunch of constructs solituded, but has fallen pretty far behind. And at this point, it becomes very clear that my opponent's game plan is to just try and rules lawyer and GRV me into the ground by just really, really watching like everything I'm doing like a hawk. So he gets a GRV on me, and like on like turn 6 when I cast a Fury, I did not announce my targets before resolving my Reef trigger, which is not how that works. You need to target the stuff with Fury before you resolve the Reef trigger. So he gets a GRV on me there. And it's really stupid too because the Reef trigger literally had nothing to do. Like I knew what I was going to kill. He had 2 flyers with 2 toughness. I was killing both of those regardless. I just didn't want flyers on the board with a Shadow Spear in play. Um, but I get 1 GRV that way. And for those that are listening that don't know how competitive Magic works, basically if you get 3 game rule violations, you lose a game. So once he got me with 1, I need to basically not get 2 more in this match to get a game loss, or for the rest of the tournament, really. And then later, I can't remember if it's the same game or not, but he also gets me for a GRV on attacking with a Risen Reef that had been ephemerated. So at this point, once I get that second GRV, I'm like, okay, I need to slow the hell down and just play slower because I'm playing too quick and not focusing on all my triggers as much as I should be. And even though this is against affinity, whatever, we're just going to go to time, and I'm just going to think about all my triggers and just not make mistakes, basically. Um, typically with a deck that functions like elementals, I try to speed up a little bit because you need to, but it's very clear that this guy is trying to gain any sort of edge that he can. So I'm just like, whatever, we'll sit here and I'll play at the pace of a tortoise, but whatever. If that's what my opponent wants, that's what my opponent wants. So we we continue to play, and basically I eventually win game 2. I have to outlast an Etch champion with a cranial plating on it with like 11 power or something insane. But I'm able to get 2 solitudes into play with a Kahira, so I'm able to kind of race it. He also puts a Shadow Spear on it. So it's a Shadow Speared cranial plating Etch champion versus 2 vigilant solitudes. And eventually I'm able to draw into a prismatic ending. So I survived that round, but notably, I have 2 game rule violations on me for the rest of this event. So if I pick up another GRV, I'm going to get a game loss. So every round, I'm trying to be a lot more careful. And naturally, I'm just playing a little slower than I would if I didn't have 2 GRVs because I really, really need to be careful that I don't do anything stupid. Well, next round, I play against a really cool dude on blue-red Murktide, and he doesn't draw particularly well, and I do draw pretty well. Every time he has a Murktide, I have a Solitude for it. Game 2 ends up ending where I triple ephemerate my things, so I forced action with an ephemerate. He tried countering it. I ephemerated again. He tried killing my guy, and I ephemerated again, and that was just very, very much game over.
Mm-hmm.
What was really weird, though, is in one of the games, he killed my Omnath, or went to path my Omnath, and then it was in response to an Omnath trigger, and there was judge there, and obviously with the 2 GRVs, I'm like really paranoid about screwing anything up. So I'm like, the judge is like kind of walking me through how everything works because it's very complicated. My opponent doesn't know how it works either. Basically, he responded to the 3rd land from the Omnath, the like 3rd one on the stack, and then when I bounce the Omnath, that like resets all of them. So basically, that 3rd one never resolves. But anyway, I end up winning that game, but that was just kind of an interesting part of it. And then my next round, I play against Eli Cassis, and Cassis is on a really sweet blue-white blink deck with Urza in it. Urza, Thraben Inspector, Esper Sentinel, Sword of the Meek combo, Stoneforge Mystic, things of that nature. It was really funny because, Larry, obviously you know that a few months ago, actually, we were kind of screwing around with a deck like that on Moto, just being morons because I love playing Thraben Inspector and Dewey loves playing Urza, and so we built a Thraben Inspector Urza pile, and I can't remember if we played Yorion or not, but either way, we played a deck really similar to this, so it was pretty funny to play against a MPL level player playing this deck, and he steamrolls me game 1. He beats me really bad. He taps both clues and an island to Metallic Rebuke me on a turn, and plays an Urza after that, and it was pretty much all she wrote. Game 2, he misses a critical 3rd land drop and falls way behind Risen Reef and loses that game. And then game 3, he also loses, but I will say Eli Cassis was a really, really cool dude, very pleasant opponent. I would have gotten another GRB had he called a judge on me because I made the same, I ephemerated a Reef and then tried attacking with it, and he just basically untapped it and said, you can't do that, and we just continued to play. But I was very fortunate that Eli was a really chill dude. And then in game 3, it was really funny. I was trying to... I play a Flamekin Harbinger with a Reef and was, like, explaining to him how the triggers work, and he's just like, do it. He's just like, just do it. It's just like, he didn't want to hear me. He didn't want to hear me walk him through all the triggers, so I'm like, all right, man. But, yeah, so anyway, I win that match. And then my last round, I play against Kellen, which honestly was kind of ironic considering he was one of the creators of my standard deck. So it was cool to play against him. He
sidebar.
was definite. Yeah.
This is a win-in?
It is, yes. It's a win-in for top 8. I went from 7-4 to 11-4, and so I'm trying to top 8 my second invitational in a row. Game 1, I lose. Game 2 is a pretty close game, kind of a weird game. I have 2 Reefs in play and get like 10 triggers and never hit a land, but it ends up fortunately not mattering, and I win game 2. And then game 3 is very tight. He misses a 3rd land drop, but he kept a very powerful hand. That's why he kept a land light hand. And basically the defining moment of this game is I play a Fury and attack his first Teferi down once he hits the 3rd land, Teferi Time Raveler. And then I hit an Ephemerate off the Fury, off the Risen Reef trigger. And so I feel like I'm in just amazing position. I really wanted to draw that Ephemerate, and I think I'm really, really good position to win this game. Well, then Kellen goes second to Teferi Time Raveler and Furies my Fury and Risen Reef, which is really savage. So I lose my Fury, I lose my Risen Reef, and even though he doesn't have that Fury in play, he still has this Teferi, which now is kind of just blanking my Ephemerate. I end up playing another Risen Reef and kind of flooding out. I draw 3 Ephemerates into this Teferi, which is a disaster, and Kellen kind of takes over with an Eternal Witness and an Ephemerate of his own. So for those that didn't already know, Teferi Time Raveler is insane and wins a lot of matchups, including these mid-ranging mirrors. So, but I end up falling in game 3. It was really funny. In the middle of game 3, Kellen was talking about how he also had 2 GRBs, which honestly, with these stupid green mid-range Ephemerate decks, man, it's pretty easy to pick up GRBs. Like, we just had a guy on last week who was, people were like jumping on him, accusing him of cheating. Dude, after playing a 16-round event and playing elementals at like the highest level type of tournament, I can tell you right now, I totally believe the guy that he wasn't cheating. There's a million things to keep track of. You're going to make mistakes, especially when a lot of us haven't been playing paper in a while. It's even easier to miss some small stuff like that. But yeah, it was just kind of funny. He had 2 GRBs as well, and then he actually ended up getting a deck reg error in top 8 as well for his modern deck. So it's unfortunate for me they didn't do a deck check in game 3.
Whoa. So he got a deck reg error on the format he wasn't playing in top 8?
Yes, correct.
Oh, that is... Oh, they deck checked both of them.
Yep, apparently they do.
Oh.
And it was a weird one too. I think he wrote Abundant Growth twice, or Abundant Harvest twice, instead of writing Abundant Growth and Abundant Harvest. He wrote one of them twice. So that was why he got his deck reg error.
That's so unfortunate. But at least I heard they split.
The good thing, exactly, they split. So he didn't actually lose any money off that. He only lost basically a game in top 8 and a potential opportunity at getting a token. And to be fair, getting a token of yourself is pretty darn cool.
Oh yeah, that's what I screw the money. I want the token. Okay, hold on a second. I don't know if I would just say I would take the money to trade for the token. But
yeah, no way on my end. I wouldn't do that. But no, either way, I mean, I'm glad. The deck reg thing's whatever. We played a really good match. I'm happy we played a match of Magic. I don't really want to win that way. I don't think most players do really want to win that way.
I do.
That's fair. I enjoy playing the game.
No, all jokes aside,
we had a really good match. Overall, I was really, really happy with my event, and complaining about getting 12th place would be ludicrous.
I know, so you got 12th place.
Yeah.
Finished on. You lost your winning in, which was unfortunate, but
unfortunate, but still got $2,000. And like I said, I top 8'd the last invitational, so I'm pretty sure that I'm definitely proving myself in these SCG invitationals, which is nice. And it's nice to continually have success.
Definitely the hardest tournament on the SCG tour for sure.
Oh yeah, no question.
No buys. You're going into it. It's split format, so you have to
almost all your opponents are competent. Nobody there doesn't deserve to be there for the most part. And yeah, most people, obviously Brad Nelson was a huge outlier in this one with a big mistake, but for the most part, people aren't going to punt against you very often. And it's Brad Nelson is an example of the highest level of competition for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, in this tournament, I played Eli Cassis, Brad Nelson, Collins Mullen. Kellen is a very good player as well. Just multiple, very, very high level competitors.
You're not going to top 8 an event of this magnitude without playing against a good player.
Yeah.
And in your case, you played against many.
Yep.
So you finish out. You said 12th place, correct? I get 12th.
12th place.
I keep saying 13th when people ask me.
That's what Collins Mullen got.
That's what
so maybe you're remembering him talking
That's
about
fair.
it because he was talking about it when we were all cubing.
Yep. All right. So now we need to go over to our man Gavin.
Oh no.
Okay, Gavin. You heard what Steven did. You heard the stuff. You're 9-7.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start by talking what the prize payout was for this event.
So, I mean, first place got $20K, and then it goes down from there. But basically, I'm hoping, top 64 gets $500. So I'm hoping that I'm in the top 64, and I get my $500 USD. Mm-hmm. So in Canadian money, that's infinite.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Tim Hortons right there, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm okay, well, 9-7, top 64, and, recoup some money on the trip, just top 8 of the energy. So the trip is basically a free roll. So, yeah. And then they post the standings, and my friend goes to look at the standings, and then he turns around, he's like, "Oh, Gavin, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Let me guess, 65th place?" And sure enough, 65th by 0.08%. So
that's probably that might be worse than 9th.
I don't know, because I also came 9th at a GP where I went 13-2. So
at least when you go,
here's what I'll say about. I mean, getting 9th is a $4,500 difference, whereas getting getting 65th is a $500 difference. And even though getting ninth, you are up 2K. That does definitely stem some of the sting. $4,500 is a lot of money.
You right. You right, fam. You right.
A lot of money.
How about we just like me in the middle and say they both suck?
They do.
Yeah, they both suck.
Missing always sucks. Like, it's a very bad feeling, but missing that close like that is just so brutal. I don't know which one would. I mean, obviously, maybe we could ask Malong how it felt because he's the one who got ninth, right?
Yes, he did. He wasn't even going to go to the tournament. He got a special invite last minute and then went. And then he arrived Saturday morning and was like building. Rodney Bedell was like building his decks at the tournament site at like 10:30 in the morning, and then he came ninth.
That's wild.
And he's come ninth like 3 times or something like that in the last month or so, with like a couple, like a mock showcase thing he came ninth.
Mm-hmm.
There was some other event online that he came ninth, and then this coming ninth. So
yeah, I got ninth in an NRG event. I bet when they were doing their online circuit or whatever, I got ninth playing Modern. It does suck. It does.
That's never a good feeling. Never a good feeling.
At least I wish I would have got $2,000 when I got ninth though. When I got ninth, I got good luck in the future. Like,
I think when so that summer, that was 2019, but that was like a crazy summer. Like I played an online PTQ, went 6-0, lost round 7, won round 8, lost round 9, came ninth on tiebreakers.
Mm-hmm.
Then like 2 weeks later, went to a GP, 13-2, ninth on tiebreakers, and then I think I played. I went to GP Dallas the next weekend, lost my win in for top 8 there, came like 11th or something like that. And then I think I played like a moto challenge in between those events, and then came ninth in that too. So I had like four ninth place finishes in a row.
God.
That's just.
Actually, there's 2 more nights. Now that we're talking about nights. The Vintage Showcase Championship qualifier thing, I came ninth in that. I lost a canister in the last round and came ninth in that. And then there was a super standard PTQ where I was like 5-0, lose round 6, lose round 7, win round 8, and come ninth. So it's been like 6 nights now that I think about it. So that's yeah. So yeah, this one was kind of brutal, coming 65th. But at the same time, I didn't play great down the stretch in the last couple of matches. I think the 2 weeks of playing 9 rounds of Magic, like 18 rounds of Magic the weekend before, and then playing 16 rounds of Magic this weekend was starting to get to me. Usually I'm like pretty okay with like doing big tournaments, but I think with all the traveling and stuff, I was just like exhausted. So, I mean, I'll still take 65th.
Yeah.
Even though, because I started at 1-3 and I was like, thought my tournament was going to be over. So
yeah, you fought back. You fought back really valiantly.
Well, what I was say is you made day 2 in your first invitational. This won't be your last. As long as you're willing to travel to them, this will not be your last invitational.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to traveling to more once they announce more events. And
do they do IQs in Canada?
Not really. I know they do in like Toronto and stuff because it's like closer to the SCG tour, but on the East Coast. But I think on the West Coast, most stores don't because no one really goes to the SCGs anyway.
Yeah,
so
makes sense. I didn't know some stores that was their only taste of competitive Magic for like local game stores that they still ran them just because of that. But
yeah,
I
I'm sure
understand.
there's some that do. Yeah.
Right. Well, I hope that you can come out to some opens, maybe get to some of them opens that get as far out as possible. I know they're all pretty far from where you're located, which is unfortunate. Are you going to Vegas?
I'm not 100% sure on Vegas. Had I have cashed this tournament, I would definitely be going to Vegas.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. Every year I always say I'm going to go to Vegas, and then I always don't go. And so it sounds like a lot of people are going to Vegas this time, and the Invitational was so much fun that I kind of want to go. But Vegas is also in like 3 weeks, basically, right?
Yeah, it's very soon.
It's very soon. It is.
It's in 3 weeks. Yeah, it's 17 days from now, I believe.
17 days? Oh, no.
It might even be sooner than that. Because, let's see, 17 days is because I think it starts on
it's
Friday.
It's the weekend before American Thanksgiving.
Oh, that is like 17 days from now.
Yeah. It's pretty
brutal.
Oh,
no. I don't know if I'm going to be
Yeah, I personally, I think I'm going to decide against it. The EV is not super high.
I'm going to do a tournament weekend.
Yeah, and
online.
not only that, there I know like some of the Red Bull events and things are going on these days, so maybe I can get a Red Bull or something that weekend.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'd much rather just do that then. And
Yeah,
especially if I'm thinking about going to do the NRG team event at the end of the month, there's no way I could do Vegas and then NRG. Like,
right, exactly. It's just so much.
yeah,
It's a lot, and
it's yeah. So I think I'll probably just skip that one and maybe just do the NRG if I can get a team. I know you guys were talking about that, so we'll see if that can happen.
I think we might
But
have. I think
yeah.
Daniel Warren's actually looking for a guy right now. So, post in our Discord if you're trying to find some teammates for that. We might be able to find
yeah.
someone.
Dan's definitely good. He's like second on the leaderboard or whatever right now. So
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
he's the one that was in the finals of the modern event
yep.
on Mill.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh. Okay. Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'll play. I'll play with whoever. I'm not relatively picky about it, so
That's
I
fair.
just
Cool,
want to
man.
play. So.
Yep. And what format would you prefer to play if you did go?
I'm fine with whatever. I mean, I had success in Legacy, and I guess I had success in Modern, so I'll,
Yeah.
I'll play. I'll play whatever.
Yeah, if you
So.
if you offer to play Legacy, I feel like that's more of an attraction for people because it's hard to find Legacy players and it is limited in modern players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be down to play Legacy.
Mhm.
I liked my deck that I played, so I'll probably play it in the Eternal Weekend. Actually, that's coming up soon too, right?
That's actually the Legacy Eternal Weekend is the weekend of Vegas.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to it.
I'm going to
I
actually
guess then
do
I'll just
that
do that.
event.
That sounds way better.
It's a week before NRG, so it's going to give me some very good competitive Legacy reps in. They'll be
Yeah.
online, so it'll be a little bit different. I'm going to play whatever deck list I'm locked in for Energy is what I will be playing in Eternal Weekend. Full 75. I'm looking forward to it. I was actually just looking at the schedule if I could pull this back up really quick. Let me see. No, that's Vegas. I don't care about you, Vegas. Even though I've been to
Who
Vegas
knows?
for many
Maybe
events.
I might get roped into Vegas. I say I'm not going now, and then who
Yeah.
knows?
If
That's
I-
fair. Yeah, I mean it's still a little bit off. You still got some time to think
If
about
I
it.
went to Vegas, I'd go for only sealed. but-
Sealed does sound like a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind going.
If
for
they
that either.
had something more than just like money prizes, I would go. Where I could
Yeah,
just
because
go.
the money prizes are kind of low,
Yeah.
realistically.
I think they're both 25Ks.
Yeah, like I just
Both
went.
events are
We just
25,
traveled all the
so.
way out to Roanoke for a massive tournament. I don't know why CFB couldn't done something like that.
I mean, I guess I just flew like literally last week for a 10K. So the fact that so
That is true.
Yeah,
You're very committed. You're coming from Vancouver, which is
Yep.
just straight gas. Because isn't Vancouver like a 20-hour drive or something from this area? I'm pretty sure it is.
yeah. So like usually I just fly from Seattle, but yeah, it's
Okay.
like it's a commute. Like, yeah, it's not
Mhm.
easy.
so it looks like 8 o'clock that Friday, November 19th. It's 8 o'clock Pacific time. I'm not Pacific Eastern time, so it's going to be 5 o'clock. California time is what they usually use for these events on
Mhm.
Moto.
Okay.
So it's 5 p.m. That time. So that'd be your time, correct? Is that your time frame?
5 p.m. Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
PST?
California, yeah, 5 p.m.
PST?
Yeah.
Yep. It says that's what this is. I don't know what UTC is.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I think I'm not sure.
And then I believe this is Japan time at the very bottom is 10 a.m. on November 20th.
Okay.
Those are the Wasteland events. I think,
Okay.
okay, so they're broken down. I'm assuming those are the super large cards you can win.
Yeah, they send
so-
them out to you.
Yeah, so there's the Wasteland. The Bayou event is going to be 2 a.m. Pacific time, so that'd be 5 a.m. mine on November 20th. And then you got Japan time at 7 p.m. on November 20th. Sylvan Library will be Sunday, November 21st at 10 a.m. your time, so that's about, 1 o'clock our time. And then the Japan
Yeah.
time is 3 a.m. on November 22nd, that Monday. You can always get a nice little transition or whatever they're called that you could have online that'll go ahead and you put your time in. It'll show you what time it will be for those like specific time zones. That way you can try to figure it out on your own. I'm going to break down some of the prizes so people know. 33rd through 64th is 150 play points at 5 chess. Top 32 will get 315 chess. 300 play points. 9th through 16th will get 300 play points and 25 chests. 5th through 8th will get 450 play points, 50 treasure chests, and 1 non-foil set of the most recent standard legal set. 3rd through 4th will get 600 play points, 100 chests, and 1 non-foil set of the most recent standard set. 2nd place, 750 points, 150 treasure chests, and 1 premium foil set of the most recent standard set. And 1st place will get 900 play points, 200 treasure chests, and 1 premium foil set of the most recent standard set, in addition to the very large cards that I just mentioned.
Those cards go, and it's like original art too, so those things are like very expensive.
Yeah. Let's see if we could show it on. Can people see my phone? Is it showing now? Nope. Nope, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. And then
but
there's
I think
also
the last
vintage.
one of those sold for a lot. Like a Force of Will one sold for like 50 or 60 grand or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, they can definitely go for a lot. And then also for those that know, you can buy what's called an Eternal Weekend token. You use these tokens to actually enter the events, but they also get you all access to every card. So if you don't have a Moto,
it's like $25 or something, and then you get every card.
Yep, 100%. And you can also usually they go in active like the Wednesday before or something like that. You can also use those cards to play leagues and stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely
That's
something
super cool.
I would highly recommend. But that I am going to be doing the legacy one. Even if I wasn't in the NRG event, there ain't a chance in hell I'd play vintage. I know
Vintage
nothing.
is great.
I know
Vintage
nothing.
is so much fun. Vintage is great. I love it.
Oh, for those that love it and they're good at it, go for it. But I'd rather not waste my money on a format I know nothing about. It's in the same boat as Pauper right now. I wouldn't play a Pauper tournament either for $25.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I do recommend it. I believe you have to use the tokens only and you can't use play points down there. So keep that in mind, everyone. But yeah, that's Eternal Weekend. That's what I'm going to be taking part of before Thanksgiving. Getting ready for the team tournament. Me and Steven are going to be teaming up with our teammate Noah. And we're going to be jamming the team tournament. I haven't not casted team tournament since paper came back.
Uh-huh.
I am hopeful that we're going to keep that streak alive.
Yeah.
So we're going to be called Team Cash this event. That's all. Steven's going to be in the modern seat. I'm going to be jamming some Legacy, which right now the front runner is Death and Taxes. So if it changes, we'll see. But I think it's pretty locked. I'm going to be playing D&T for that event.
Okay.
No, you don't want to play blue-red?
So I rather play a deck that actually is good against the blue-red. So your lone builds for Bant aren't like the most popular still. They might get more popular by the time that event rolls around.
I'm not even sure if they will because NRG just didn't post my deck list.
Yeah. So
classic.
So the reason I told Steven I'm playing D&T because it bullies blue-red and Bant. It does pretty well against these fair decks. Now it's worse against those combo-y decks and those nature, but I think the fair decks are going to be the higher percentage of the room. So I think if I can like bully on these fair decks, I don't know how my burn matchup is, Steven. Or should we just play burn?
No.
Oh dear.
No, I'm not serious. I'm gonna play burn in a format.
No, I know you're not serious, but I was pretty off burn when we were like losing to Delver. So when you're gonna take Delver with burn, that is not.
Because historically Legacy Burn's bad against everything known to man except for Delver. Yeah. And now you can't even beat Delver. What's the point?
Yeah, Delver felt pretty 50-50 to me. So
I agree. So yeah, that's my plan. Is I'm gonna play D&T. I am going to play the Yorion build because I think the Yorion build's better against the fair decks. However, if we were worried about if I thought that more combo and things of that nature and unfair decks are gonna be popular, we'd be on 60 card. I think the 60 card favors so much better in those matchups. Personal opinion. But we are gonna be jamming some Esper Sentinels.
Mm-hmm. That card was good.
Yeah, that card was great in our very small amount of testing. But all my streams and stuff going forward are going to be Legacy. Since I'm going to be jamming, that's my next big tournament is a Legacy tournament, which will be Eternal Weekend. So
I need to figure out what to play in Historic, because apparently I qualified for the Arena PTQ this weekend,
Oh, nice, dude. Nice.
I
which I kind of forgot about, so I don't know what I'm going to play for that format. But
yeah, I'm not a very good helpful hand in Historic right now. I know what I would play in Historic, and that'd be Mono Black Aggro, just because I heard Phoenix is really good.
How did you qualify for this one, Gavin? Was that being top 1,200 last month?
no, I guess because I 6-0 to Satellite, SCG Satellite, I got the invite for this one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Steven was trying to make sure it wasn't something related to this past weekend. He's like, wait, hold on.
Well, no, I was trying to figure out if I'm qualified for that. I guess Arena would tell me if I'm qualified for it, right?
Just go into your profile.
Email.
Yeah, also go to your profile. You'll see a token.
Okay. I don't think I am invited to this one then.
But
So we'll see what I'm going to play for that. I don't know.
But yeah, guys, I just want to touch it one more time. Congrats on your good weekends. Regardless of everything, it was an awesome weekend. Awesome to see everyone.
Yep.
I'm hoping for more events like that because this event was a blast.
It was a lot of fun.
I had a good time. I got to see people I haven't seen. We had Con 2021, which was awesome.
Oh, dude, Larry, my last round of day one was James.
How
did we both forget that? Okay, so James just, if he listens to this, he's going to be furious because he just got tased by both of us again. But James Johnston is a teammate of ours, and he also punted to me egregiously in game one. He was playing Burn, and he went me at 6. He attacked with a Monastery, a Swiss Spear, and a Goblin Guide with a Teferi in play at 1, and I played a Solitude for free to hit the Goblin Guide and go to 5, and he tried to Boros Charm me in combat, and I pointed at Teferi and said, you can't do that. And so he missed lethal by 1 damage. All he had to do was main phase the Boros Charm. He didn't, and then he loses game 1. Mind you, he shouldn't have even been paired with me in the first place because he was in the draw bracket, but the judges couldn't read my opponent's handwriting, I guess, from the round before. And since we got rushed out so quick because our round went forever, he ended up, the judges ended up giving me a draw. And then when I went over there to correct it, they said, we're going to correct your record, but we're not going to repair you. So I had to play against James, who's the one who pointed out this error. Thank goodness he pointed it out. Otherwise, it would have had a draw. And then I ended up beating him that way in game 1. And then game 2, he mulligans to 5. And mulligans again, I think, at this point. I can't even remember if he went to 4. I think he just angrily conceded after going to 5 and looking at his 5. But, yeah, a very wild last round, and I cannot believe that you and I both didn't remember that was my last round of day 1. But
to be fair, this is the weekend that James also hit my car with his car. So
he did.
I like that you left that out of the tournament report, by the way.
Quite a weekend. Yeah, he did leave it out of the tournament report.
Yeah, Gavin.
I guess technically not part of the tournament, but...
Yeah, Gavin, if you don't... Oh, no, he includes Smoky Bones and everything. He can include me.
Oh, yeah, all right, you're right. He's just
reversing and smacking my car as hard as he possibly could have from the little distance he was.
That did happen.
Yep. Good old James Johnson. It's okay. He didn't cash, so it made it all worthwhile.
Pretty wild.
But no, we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this week's edition of Talking Swish. And Gavin, thank you again for coming on and breaking down our nice little recap of this SCG Invitational, SCG CON, whatever you want to call it. The first big event, because they've had some big events like NRGs and some of these little 10K circuits and things like that, but nothing to the magnitude of this event. So...
No.
I hope this is an opportunity for the future. I do want to say I like the whole wristband system that SCG did. That was nice.
I think the whole setup was great. I liked the wristband. I liked that there was only 2 people per table. I don't know why they don't just do that at all tournaments. It's just
where we had
better.
room to breathe?
Yeah, you're not elbow to elbow. You can lay your it was great. I really liked that. The mask thing was great. Yeah, everything was great. I got my COVID test back, and I was negative. So, because to go back into Canada, you have to get a PCR test.
Makes
sense. I got that today when I went across the border, and I'm negative. So that's great. So I don't have to worry about that.
Canada's never played around with COVID.
Yeah,
they've always been a bit ahead of the curve.
So the borders are completely open at this point.
So, for Americans can come up to Canada, and Americans can go back home, but Canadians can't go to the States. Not until November 8th. I think November 8th is when they're just opening it up.
Okay.
But in order to come to Canada, you have to be fully, I think it's either fully vaccinated or at least one shot, and you have to have a negative test done within 72 hours of when you're arriving. And you
Makes
fill
sense.
out your information online, and then, yeah. So, but in the States, you don't have to, I mean, you have to be vaccinated, I believe, but they don't check. I think they do secondary check. If you get called in for secondary inspection, then they check. But I mean, I'm assuming anyone who goes across obviously is vaccinated, because if they say that they're not and then they get checked, then that's just game over for them. So,
Yeah, finish
yeah,
him.
yeah. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to going to more tournaments and going to the NRG. I think there's an NRG in December that I'm probably going to go to, because the flights to Chicago are usually pretty cheap. So that's like a tournament I can easily go to, and it's
Nice.
easy to get. I work at a casino, and it's easy to get days off. So like, you'll definitely be seeing me for the team one in November, and I'm probably going to go to the other one in December as well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
No,
Very cool, man.
we'll definitely have to link up. And we'll definitely see you at the energy event because we'll definitely be there.
Sweet. Yeah, no, that'll be a blast.
Nope. But like I said, we're gonna go ahead and put a bow on this. For anybody that watched tonight or does watch this replay on YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff, we appreciate you listening. This has been Gavin Bennet. Make sure to follow him on Twitter and all them great social media sites to send that clout his way. And
Yes.
also follow his run on the future events that he just mentioned, especially Nerd Rage Gaming Series, where he is just crushing it with his recent top 8 finish.
Yep.
But
Thank
Gavin,
you. Yeah.
we wish you the best of future events, and for everyone that's watching, we will catch you all later.
Catch you next time, everybody.